Welcome to the Dish on Divorce. I'm Leanne Townsend.
And I'm Jennifer Barkin.
And in today's episode, we're going to chat about going from not to hot after divorce. So a lot of people, when they come out of their bad marriage that, resulted in a divorce, their self-esteem is really, really low. And, often they've let themselves go because they're not feeling good about themselves. Maybe they were put down a lot or, just they were generally unhappy. And when they have to go back out there in the dating world or even just want to begin a new chapter of their life, sometimes divorce can be the opportunity to really, do a makeover and fix yourself up and hit the reset button.
And sometimes when people go through divorce and they're coming out of a marriage, it's not even as much that they're feeling so bad about themselves, but they just sort of got a little bit lazy because you get very comfortable.
Yeah.
And, when you think about it, if it's a first date, a second date, how long you spend on your hair, if you're a woman, on your makeup, and then, into this marriage, a couple of years that it's in that weird bun on top of your head and the ratty bathrobe.
Yeah.
Guilty. Right? So, and maybe some weight gain. And so,
yeah, I
think are feeling great.
For sure. I mean, I think you hear stories about people who are married a long time where, one or both, they kind of let themselves go a bit because they're comfortable and they don't feel like they have to, look hot anymore. And, so they, as you said, maybe gained weight and they're not, when they go out, they don't dress up or they don't try as hard. And, when you get divorced, and I know this from being divorced, and you have to, go back out if you want to find love again. I mean, some people get divorced and they maybe aren't interested in meeting someone new. But if you are, then, that's something I find it puts a pressure on me to keep my appearance up because I'm out there in the dating pool.
And it's hard. It's hard, too, because especially, if you went into a marriage and you were 29, 30 years old, and now you're coming out of a marriage, you might be 45, 50 years old or older.
Yeah.
Right? So what do people do, Leanne, to make themselves go from not to hot?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I'm a big proponent of and that I've seen people do is become more fit. So, they've let themselves go in the marriage and maybe they were so busy with life in general, which is probably only going to be worse after their divorce. But, I've seen situations, you call it kind of like the revenge body where you eat healthy, you work out, you get your body into top-notch shape. And, they always say that the best revenge is looking good. Mm-hmm. So, I think some people, will do that. And I'm a big, proponent of working out and fitness, and I like toned looking bodies and whatnot. So I think that's a really healthy thing for people to do as a way to, regain their self-esteem and their confidence. They feel good. They're taking care of themselves. And so, that's one thing I see people doing. What are some other things you've seen?
Well, as far as the working out, I just want to make a comment about that. Aside from helping your body look good, it raises your serotonin level in your body. So it naturally helps you feel better.
Well, yeah, it's an antidepressant. It's an anti-anxiety. I mean, for me, that's a big purpose I use it for in my life. And so I think that's another great reason why when you, have gone through a divorce and maybe you are feeling stressed or down, the exercise can help combat that as well as making you look good and affecting your physical health too.
A win-win.
A win-win, mental health and physical health.
But some people take it a little bit further.
Yes.
Kindly, a little bit further. By seeing a doctor and getting some plastic surgery.
Yep.
How do you feel about that?
I personally think that, self-love and that sort of thing has to come from within, like getting, surgery or hair extensions or tans or, all those sorts of things, that if you don't feel good about yourself inside to begin with, those things are not going to help you feel good about yourself. But having said that, I think if it gives someone a little bit more of a, pop to the, in their step in their walk or whatever the saying goes, I'm not opposed to it. I mean, I think everything in moderation. So, I mean, you see people who get, almost like addicted to it and they become obsessive and, that sort of thing. And obviously I don't think that's healthy. And I don't think people should look to surgery to make them happy. So if you're sad and you're depressed after your divorce and you think, oh, I'm going to go get a tummy tuck and a facelift and, then I'm going to be happy. I don't think it's going to make you happy. But, if you can afford it and you are in a healthy place with your self-esteem and you want to get it, then why not?
I believe that it has its place. It's funny, in my early 20s, and I would say, oh, I'll never do this and I'll never do this. And I'm getting older now. And I'm like, pulling things and going, if I could afford to do this, I probably would do it. I think it only becomes problematic when people have like a body dysmorphia, and a body dysmorphia is what you see in the mirror is not what really appears. And you start looking a little bit nutty, like Donatella Versace or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that can be kind of dangerous. But it's a Band-Aid solution. And you're right. Like if you don't feel good on the inside, you're going to keep going and going and going. And again, you're going to look like Michael Jackson or Donatella Versace at the end. And that's not pretty.
No, and it's not, one of the things that we see happening, that I think is common, because a lot of people, when they get divorced, they tend to be in midlife. That's sort of a common age group. And I find, I come across a lot of women who, they're attractive at 40 and 50 and beyond, but, they don't look like they did when they were 25, because none of us do. And I sometimes see, people like that becoming more insecure because their looks are fading. They've gone through a divorce. They want to find a man. The reality is that, the studies show and the research shows that, men tend to date younger.
Yes.
And so it's rubbing in their face even more that they're aging. And, women in that kind of situation, might be turning to plastic surgery or injectables and things like that to try and keep their youth. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as they're not looking at it as a solution to the inner work that needs to be done.
I would say that the stress is there for both sexes, actually. A man who's coming out of a very long-term relationship, he may have gotten the belly, and for men, they lose their hair often, and that is very hard on them. So I think for as much as us women, feel, oh no, like look at all this work I have to do to make myself attractive, I think men are feeling insecure too.
Probably. I mean, the old stereotype, of course, is if the man has money, he's had a successful career and he's got money, then it does, the younger women don't care. They're just going to go with him because of the money. Whereas the woman, because, traditionally women are valued for their beauty and their looks, that, it's more important in their mind to look good. But I think that as we're seeing things change a lot with the roles of men and women, and, in magazines and on social media now, men have to almost look as pretty as women, and sometimes they're prettier. That may be, and as there's older women dating younger men, and, there are changes that way. So I think what you're saying has some truth to it.
And especially also for men, they don't even say the word out loud. But as men get older, ED, I will say it, erectile dysfunction. Men are so worried about performing. There's all that pressure. So I think that I'm going to say that the men have it every bit as hard as the women do.
Well, and I think that when you're single, there is that pressure, especially in this world where we have online dating. You just, another person's a click away. The competition is fierce. If you're a good catch, there's you're going to be in high demand. And so, I think for all of us, this pressure to look your best is definitely, there.
Especially with this swipe culture,
Yeah.
right? Because, we had a guest, Carmelia Ray,
Yeah.
and she said in the interview that we did with her that men don't read. So you can be the greatest catch. I'm educated. I have a good job. I'm independent. All of these wonderful things. But if they don't like the picture,
Yeah.
they're not getting to that.
No, that's what she said. And I think there's truth in that. And so there is that, that pressure to look good. And, and it can be hard because I know, as a single mom myself, like on top of the other, 850 things I have to do every day to also try and look good, and get a manicure and get my hair done and, eat properly and exercise and then still have a job and take care of my kids. Like it's a lot of pressure on people, both men and women. Because if single dads have the same, things I have, same tasks to take care of as I have. And I find it's hard, like to feel this pressure that you need to look good, but you don't have enough hours in the day and you're exhausted. And you don't feel like having, when getting a manicure sometimes for me is a chore. It's not a relaxing, enjoyable thing. It's like, oh my God, I have to get my nails done because I have to look decent.
That's right. But I really, in my opinion anyway, think that aside from the physical, which, there is importance on the physical, that if you don't fix what's inside,
Yes.
Nobody's pretty and nobody's handsome. Pretty is as pretty does.
Yeah. No, you have to fix what's inside because, I've seen, beautiful women, very handsome men who don't feel good about themselves, despite the outward appearance. So it definitely, when you go through a divorce, you need to do the work inside, first and foremost. And then if you want to work on things on the outside, to make you feel even better, then it's a bonus.
It's a bonus. But the reality is, when people are coming out of a marriage or a long-term relationship, they're accountable. They have to make themselves accountable. A relationship breakdown is because of two people, not because of one person. And until you do the work on yourself and learn your accountability for what went wrong, right? Hurt people.
For sure. Well, and you repeat the cycles and the patterns and whatnot. And, and it's interesting. It's kind of veering a little bit off topic, but I know, we've chatted about it on other shows, like the whole family of origin thing and how, we are so prone, what was acted out in our own home with our mom and dad and the dynamics growing up, it impacts us so much and plays out in our relationships unless we learn, about what we're doing and, do the work to change the patterns so that they don't keep repeating.
It's really important.
For sure.
But, saying that, there is that stress of you're starting to date someone, you want to feel your best, because there's nothing scarier than if you've been with that same partner for so many years that somebody's going to see me naked.
Yeah, I think it's a hard thing when you've been in, especially if you've been in like a long-term marriage. I know myself when I got separated, I'd been with my ex-husband for 12 years and I was with someone immediately before him for 6 years. And so to, get naked, with another man. And at that point, I, was younger
Your
and
kids
I'm
are
slimmer and stuff.
Leanne
I know.
did not get naked with any other man.
Exactly. But, it's hard. Like, it's stress. Like, I remember feeling, anxious, when I did that. It's hard for people. For some people. Some people kind of bounce right into it, more easily than others. And I think it depends on your personality, how long you were married, all those sorts of things.
How fabulous you think you are.
Yeah.
Right? Some people think they're better than they are too. So
Now, what about, just having, but it's not saying plastic surgery and stuff like that, but just having a makeover, like, changing your hair color, changing your style, visiting a stylist and having somebody help you do some shopping. Personally, I think those could be good things to help, somebody feel better and like they're starting a new chapter. What do you think of things like that?
I think they're great. I think they're great as long as people go see the right people, because you can also go broke.
Yeah. Shopping can become almost an addiction to make you feel better,
right?
But it's only temporary.
Right. So, but I do think that a new haircut, a pretty shirt, whatever it may be, just those little things, anything that makes you feel better, and it's not permanent. You haven't done anything to permanently change, because sometimes if you're not feeling good about yourself, you tend to go, oh, nothing will work, and go to the drastic. So that could be the plastic surgery and starting like overkill, right? And where somebody was a nice looking person before and, they just don't like themselves, it gets pretty scary and pretty sad.
Yeah, no, and I think, I don't think people should ever do anything drastic when they're going through a challenging time, because they could regret it. And, drastic for one person could be different than drastic for someone else. Like I know, for example, for the two of us, getting a pixie cut would be drastic. Like that would be really drastic. Whereas for some other women, that wouldn't be. That might be very freeing, or make them feel really empowered. Yeah,
empowering.
Yeah. Whereas I like to hide with my hair a little. My hair is my security blanket, and so for me, I think that I would have a very strong emotional reaction to doing something like that in response to like separation or divorce.
It's also your identity.
Yeah, it is.
Because, when I think of Leanne the lawyer, I think of Leanne with the long blonde hair, sort of like the Reese Witherspoon of lawyers from The Legally Blonde. Really, really smart, but really pretty.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think of that with you with your hair as well. I always think of you with the long blonde hair, and it's part of your brand. It's
the identity.
Yeah, and it kind of differentiates you from, some of the other mediators out there, and you're bringing all the skills and the smarts and, the credentials and all of that to the table too, but it's a way to stand out from, the others. And so, I think things like, so I would never, like someone like us, I would never recommend cutting your hair as something. But as I say, my main go-to that I would tell people is the fitness, because of the mental health, the physical health, and it's only going to be good for you. There's no real downside to it. Whereas some of these other things, I think, you still need to really, you always need to do the inner work, but with fitness, you're that's part of inner work in some ways.
Maybe. It is part of inner work.
Yeah.
Because there is that gain that you get from it.
Now, I come across a lot of women in my practice, men not as much, but it could just be that they're not telling me this kind of stuff, but who are very, they've come out of, say, an abusive relationship, and they feel really down on themselves. They feel very disempowered, if that's a word. And they have kind of let themselves go, and they don't feel like they'll ever be attractive to a man again. And they don't really want to do anything, to change how they look. Do you think that is a bad thing, or do you think people need to make changes, but if they're not happy? I don't know. Like, what do you say to someone like that?
Well, if you've been, especially emotionally, beaten up on, where you're called stupid, you're called fat, you're called ugly, you're called, any of those sort of things, and you start to believe that.
Yeah.
Right? You can fall so low that you think that no amount of anything, like, it's a waste of time. Why should I bother? Because I'm so stupid, ugly, fat, whatever may be. I really don't think that any of these changes are going to help that. I think that the first place is to get some help with the mental health professional who can really work on, the trauma and what's gone on. And I think it's fixing somebody from the inside, and then they might be ready to take that step to make themselves feel good on the outside.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think it's so important. What about, I mentioned at the beginning of our show today, the whole idea of a revenge body and how people say, looking good is the best revenge. First of all, do you agree with that? Like if somebody treated you badly and they dumped you and you come back and you are looking fantastic, do you think that kind of makes you feel a little better? And then they're dating someone who's ugly?
Well, everybody's different. But for me, and being honest, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's nothing, you go to that restaurant and that guy that, dumped you and you were so devastated and he's over in the corner of the table with his date or whoever it is. And you just walk in and you stand straighter, you do the flip.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And nothing more fun than to walk over to the table and go, hi, how nice to see you.
Exactly.
Hi, I'm Jennifer.
Exactly. It is. Like, I do think looking good is like, one of the best revenge. That, being happy is probably the even better revenge. But yeah, I mean, I think there's no better feeling than, if you got dumped but then you end up you end up like exercising and you really look good to go and the person who dumped you, have them see you, looking really great.
And you hear that. You hear that complaining voice from that person going, they never looked like that when I was with him or her.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true. The other thing that, sort of along the same line with that is that, I think looking good, like I feel like looking good and inner work are connected. Like it's like a circle in the sense that I find myself like when I feel good about myself inside, I tend to eat healthier. I tend to exercise more regularly. I tend to have more confidence. So when I walk into a room, people feel my presence more. I feel more positive and more happy. And then when I look good and I've lost weight and I'm eating healthy and I'm feeling confident, in turn, I feel, good inside. So it's like they both, one affects the other. They're interconnected.
For sure. And when you're feeling good, you smile. And when you smile, you look approachable. And when you're not feeling good, and you have your hair in that weird bun thing,
the messy bun.
You're not as approachable.
Yeah.
Right?
Or when you have resting bitch face.
Yeah.
You're not as approachable.
So for sure, I think that you have to work on everything.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It starts with the inside, but then the inside affects the outside, then the outside affects the inside, and, they keep going back with each other.
So I believe that if things can be fixed and it's not such a big deal, like if your teeth were always kind of yucky, right?
Yeah.
A nice smile is a nice smile. Get the braces. Never too late.
Yeah, I agree with that.
If you can afford it, do it.
Well said. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us on The Dish on Divorce. I'm Leanne Townsend.
And I'm Jennifer Barkin.
We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.